Have you ever felt like your life is slowing down, or even quietly falling apart? Like nothing is moving the way it used to? Doors that once seemed open are suddenly closed. People you thought would stay are slowly drifting away. Plans you were so sure about are no longer working out. And in those quiet moments you find yourself asking God, what are you doing? Because this doesn't feel like progress. It doesn't feel like growth. It feels like loss. It feels confusing, heavy, even a little hopeless. But what if this season you're in right now is not meant to break you? What if it's actually preparing you? What if the very things that feel like setbacks are actually signs that God is shifting your life towards something greater? Because the truth is, when God is about to elevate you, things often don't feel peaceful. They feel uncertain. They feel uncomfortable. They feel like everything is being shaken, but you are not being forgotten. You are being repositioned. And if this message is reaching you right now, it's not by accident. It's confirmation. So if you're in a season where things don't make sense, where you feel lost, stretched, or even disconnected, I want you to type 1 inch the comments, because that simple act is your way of saying, God, even when I don't understand, I still trust you. 1. God is removing things you thought you needed. One of the first and most painful signs of divine preparation is subtraction. Things you thought were permanent begin to disappear. Relationships end. Opportunities close. Stability fades. And it hurts not just because you're losing something, but because you're losing the picture you had of your life. You're not just grieving people or situations. You're grieving expectations. But here is a truth that is difficult yet freeing. God will remove what you are holding on to if it's preventing you from receiving what He has for you. Isaiah 5:5-8-9 reminds us that God's thoughts are higher than ours and His ways are beyond our understanding. That means what feels like loss to you may actually be protection. What feels like rejection may actually be redirection. Sometimes God has to clear your hands because you're holding on to things that no longer align with your purpose. And until you release them, you won't be able to receive what's next. 2. You feel uncomfortable where you once felt settled. Have you noticed that places that once brought you peace no longer feel the same? The routines that once satisfied you now feel empty. The conversations that once excited you now feel shallow. The environments that once felt like home now feel off. This isn't confusion. This is growth. Hebrews 1:18 speaks about Abraham stepping into the unknown, obeying God without having all the answers. That's what real faith looks like. It doesn't always come with clarity. It comes with movement. God often disrupts your comfort before He elevates your calling. Because if you stayed comfortable, you would never move. And sometimes the restlessness you feel isn't anxiety. It's your spirit recognizing that you've outgrown where you are. 3. You're being stretched to release control. There comes a point in your journey where everything you used to rely on stops working. You try to plan it out. You try to fix it. You try to make things happen the way you think they should. But no matter how hard you push, nothing moves. The more you try to control the outcome, the more uncertain everything feels. And that can be deeply frustrating, because you want clarity, you want direction, you want to feel like you're in control of your own life. But in this season, God is teaching you something greater than control. He's teaching you surrender. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us to trust in the Lord with all our heart and not depend on our own understanding. Because what you can see is limited, but what God sees is complete. Control may feel safe, but it can quietly block the very path God is trying to lead you on. Because as long as you are holding everything tightly, there is no room for God to guide your steps. And sometimes the reason things aren't working is not because you're doing something wrong, it's because God is asking you to release what you were never meant to carry alone. This is the moment where faith becomes real. Not when you understand everything, but when you choose to trust God without having all the answers. So if you're in a season where you feel like you're losing control, maybe it's not loss. Maybe it's an invitation to trust deeper. If that speaks to your heart, type Amen in the comments. As a declaration, God, I release control, and I choose to trust you. 4. You're experiencing delays that don't make sense. You've prayed. You've prepared. You've done everything you believe you were supposed to do, but nothing is happening. Doors are not opening. Answers are not coming. Breakthrough feels far away, and you start wondering, did I miss it? Did I make the wrong move? Did God forget about me? But the truth is, God is not late. He is intentional. Habakkuk 2:3 reminds us that the vision is for an appointed time. Even if it seems slow, it will come at the exact right moment. What feels like delay is often alignment. God is not just preparing the blessing. He is preparing the timing, the people, the circumstances, and most importantly, He is preparing you. Because if it arrived too early, you might not be ready to carry it. And what God gives, He intends for you to sustain. 5. You're going through intense pressure and inner battles. Let's be honest. Preparation doesn't always feel peaceful. Sometimes it feels heavy. You feel stretched. You feel tested. You feel like you're carrying weight that no one else can see. You face doubts. You wrestle with insecurities. You fight battles in silence. And it can make you question everything. But pressure is not punishment. It is preparation. James 1:2-4 tells us that trials produce perseverance, and perseverance shapes maturity. In other words, your struggle is building something in you. It is strengthening your faith. It is deepening your endurance. It is refining your character. God is not wasting your pain. Every challenge is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more grounded, because what God is preparing for you requires a version of you that is ready. 6. You feel isolated or set apart. There are seasons when you start to feel different, disconnected, even alone. People you once related to you no longer feel aligned with. Conversations don't carry the same meaning. Environments that once felt normal now feel uncomfortable. And it leaves you wondering, why do I feel so distant from everyone? But this isn't always loneliness. Sometimes it's divine separation. God will often pull you away from certain people, places, and distractions not to punish you but to prepare you. Because where He is taking you, not everyone can go. In Galatians 1:15, we are reminded that God sets people apart for His purpose even before they fully understand it. And in this season, God may be removing noise so you can hear Him clearly. He may be creating distance so you can develop depth. It may feel uncomfortable, but it is intentional. You're not being rejected. You're being refined. So if you've been feeling isolated lately, don't assume something is wrong. God may be setting you apart for something greater. If this resonates with your spirit, type Amen in the comments. As a declaration, God, even in the quiet, I trust your purpose for my life. 7. You're developing a deeper dependence on God. After the loss, after the discomfort, after the waiting, after the pressure, something begins to shift inside of you. You start praying differently. Not just asking, but seeking. You start thinking differently. Not just reacting, but trusting. You start relying less on your own strength and more on God's presence. 2 Corinthians 1:2-9 reminds us that God's grace is sufficient and His power is made perfect in our weakness. That means your weakness is not your disadvantage. It is the very place where God's strength is revealed. And this is the most important transformation of all. Because the goal was never just the blessing. The goal was you becoming someone who can carry it. God is not just preparing something for your life. He is preparing you for what He has planned. So if your life feels uncertain right now, if things are being removed, delayed, or shaken, don't panic. Don't rush. Don't try to force what God is trying to replace. Because what feels like everything falling apart may actually be everything falling into place. God sees what you cannot see. He understands what you do not understand, and He is building something greater than you can imagine. One day you will look back on this season and realize it wasn't the end. It was preparation,